Now I'm going to quickly mention 3 commands that are used for different network purposes. The first one, which I'm sure you may be aware of, is wget. The main use of this is for downloading files. Simple as that. Oops, I spelled that TTP wrong, but never mind. That'll download from this server file.txt. That's the main use of wget, downloading a file off the internet to your current working directory. Excuse me. Now another network command which is very powerful is curl. This has many uses and there could be a tutorial purely on curl, and it would actually take up quite a few videos if I was to cover it all. It's very powerful and worth looking into if you're interested in networking. Now I find the best use of curl is for checking into different web apps and on local networks. Let me give you some quick examples of curl. If I typed curl tac, but first of all, if I just type curl and any web address, for example, say Google, okay, this may seem like jargon, but if you know HTML it may not. This is actually downloaded the first page I came to on Google as the HTML code. Okay, now for example, I could use, let me clear my screen first, could use that command using the greater than, pipe it to a file, pipe it straight to an HTML file. That'll download the Google page into this page. Okay, so now I've got page.html and it's based on the Google page. Okay, that may seem again like a pointless use of it, but that's the basic curl format. You can also do curl tac capital O to download a file, just like wget, basically the same thing. So that download the file.zip and put it into the current directory. Now if I used lowercase o, I could actually name what I wanted, rename what I wanted to download at. So this will now download file.zip from this server, but download it as file2.zip on my hard drive, or whatever I put here. So download that file, but actually call it this name on my hard drive. That's lowercase o. Uppercase O just downloads the file, keeping the name it is already named as. Okay. Another example of curl, I could put tac capital I. This will actually get the header of a web page. All this is very useful when you're working with web apps. This gets me the header information of Google. Okay. If you don't know what a header is, this might seem a bit pointless to you, but if you do, I'm sure you can see the value in using curl for that. There's actually a lot more you can do with curl, a lot more advanced things you can do with curl actually. For example, I could continue a download. I'd say I was downloading a really big file, say even just 500 meg or something, but I'd only managed to download 200 meg before my computer got turned off. I could continue it with curl tac capital C for continue, and then whatever file I was downloading. And it'd continue where I left off. There's a lot more you can do with curl. It's worth looking into if you're interested in internet different pen testing or ethical hacking to do with web apps or networking and such. Now another one I want to mention is Netcat. Netcat is very much like Perl, but I find it's more focused towards, or at least I find it better for inter-network use, although it can do pretty much what curl can do and vice versa. It's very, very useful for reverse shells and bind shells. You can simply type NC for Netcat, or you can type NCAT, or you can type Netcat. They'll all work. But you might as well get used to just typing NC. That's Netcat. For example, another use of Netcat, you could type TAC-Z and an IP range, or an IP. There's the computer on that on my network, and I don't know, 10 to 1000. Oops, my bad, added an extra 0. What that does is port scan. So Netcat, TAC-Z, port scan that IP for ports in this range. I actually know there's none open, but that's just an example. If there was, it'd list them. Another use of Netcat, if you just type Netcat and an IP, or even a server, okay. It usually works with IP, so I might have to specify the port I'm connecting to here, which being a web address is 80 usually, or 443 for HTTPS. You should get into that habit. Curl use the domain name mainly, Netcat use the IP, but you can interchange them by specifying the port and such. In its own time. I must specify at the moment I'm on a really slow internet connection, so bear with it. In fact, I'm not going to wait no more. Basically that will get the banner, much like the curl command. But as you can see, it's a tiny bit slower I find for that type of thing, which is why I use it mainly for internet-work use. I find it's a lot better for internet-work use than curl, and curl's a lot better concerning web apps and web servers. Another use of Netcat, which let me give you a good example, versioning. If I got Netcat, so TAC-V, actually the no ports that's connected. That's actually a bad example because this computer is completely closed off at the moment. It's actually running something, so I've closed down all the ports, so I actually don't know why I use that example. But basically what that does is basic versioning commands. Show me the version of things running and such on different ports. So say for example I knew SSH was open on port 22, even though it's not. It'll show me what version of SSH. So as you can see, it's not actually running, but if it was, it'd show me what version and such. So that's basic versioning. Okay. You might be thinking, well, Netcat actually seems pretty useless really, but to be honest, Netcat is very powerful. There's actually been books written on Netcat for different uses, because they're that powerful that whole books have been written on them. If you check the manual, you'll get a rough idea. If you actually just search for Netcat on Google, for example, you may be shocked at some of the things it can do. The main use it usually does within pen testing is for running bind and reverse shells. Sorry about that. Bind and reverse shells. It's okay, my son was kind of indicating something to me. Excuse me. Okay, yeah, so the main use of it is for bind and reverse shells. So the usual way of doing that is Netcat L for listen. You'd have to get, again, there could be an old tutorial on this before I go into. In fact, I don't know whether I really should go into. I don't really want to confuse you before you get to that stage. In fact, yeah, I'm not actually going to go into that, but yeah, that would tac L for listen, tac P for what port I want to use. That's basically made a listening server on one computer. On another computer, I'd put Netcat again, tac P for that to connect to that port 444, and say tac E for what command to run. Yeah, on the other computer I'd run tac P and the same port, tac E and say / say I was connecting to a Windows computer, cmd.exe. that I'd run command. So then I'd have a shell directly to the command line, or perhaps I could do, if I was connecting to a Linux machine, have a bash command line with sh. So as you can see, it's very useful for shells, bind and reverse shells. But I'm not going to go into them at the moment. I will be doing videos about all that at a later date. But if you're interested in that type of thing, do look up Netcat. It's basically an ideal tool for shells, really. And it's its main use, but there is a lot of other uses, as I tried to highlight on my slow internet connection with closed ports. But I'm sure you got the idea. As I mentioned, curl's really good for web app information gathering and connecting to things there, gathering like the banner, you know, different things like that. Curl is great for that type of thing. Netcat's great for inter-network use and shells. Okay, let me clear my screen. I'll leave that at that. As I say, I will be doing tutorials on them at a later date, so I don't really want to go into them too much. But if you are interested in Netcat and curl, or either or at this point, do look them up on Google, or just look at the man page on Kali or whatever Linux Flavour you're using. If you want to play around with them, they're great tools. Okay. While I'm on network subject, you can also run netstat. Now this is a bit of an odd one. You can run tac T U L P N. That's, let me just show you what it does first. Okay, that's a bit more clearer. That shows me what connections I've currently got going, this user, what connections I'm running, where they're connected to, etc., what they're currently doing, listening or nothing, and what program's using them. What that's doing is showing me my UDP connections with tac U, my TCP connections with tac T, showing me what's listening, what ports are open, and my basic network features. So that's TCP, tac T, UDP, tac U, what's listening with tac L, what ports are open with tac P, and my basic network features with tac N. That's netstat. Again, netstat does do more, but as I said, I'm just going to be running through some quick fire pen test ethical hacking commands that you should get used to using. If you want more details, just run man and netstat for the manual page, and perhaps pipe it through more. Okay. Or even greater than into a text file so you can read it at your own leisure, whichever you prefer, really. Something else to use for watching any open port. This is a bit different method of doing it. Watch ss tac st plu. Again, pretty much the same or similar options. TCP, UDP, ports, whether they're listening, and S for any open sockets. This will show in real time any open connections and any open sockets and what they're doing. Another very useful command. Let me Control C to get out of it. And just show you that again in case you want to know. That's watch ss tac st plu. That's tac S for sockets, T for TCP connections, P for the ports that are open, L for what's listening, U for any UDP connections. Okay. Another one, if you want to get a host name for any IP address that you... Okay, just cleared my screen with controller now. I'll be covering other keyboard shortcuts in a moment, so bear with me. If you aren't sure how to clear your screen, it's simply Control and L, or you can type clear, obviously. Okay, so to find the host name of an IP address, you would, or you can use NMB lookup tac capital A and the IP address you're enumerating. This will give you the host name associated with it, any groups they're associated with, and also give you other information such as the MAC address, and as well as give you an indication of whether they're on the internet as such. Because Internet Explorer or any other web browser usually has its own special group. So they're actually using the internet at the moment, or there's an internet page open, should I say. Okay, so you get an host name. Okay. Another handy network tool, you can always use finger, tac S and an IP address. Oops, sorry. At and an IP address. And that'll give you the username of that IP address. Presuming you have access, of course. I don't have direct access. This is basically used once you've already exploited the system and gotten yourself access. So this is post-exploitation. Finger, tac S, at, and the IP address to get the username. Okay. Another handy network command actually is host. Now host can do a few things. It's mainly used to get the IP address of a web server, or vice versa, the web server associated with an IP address, but you can also use it to get mail servers, the MX records, as well as other things such as finding out if you can do a zone transfer, which isn't very often nowadays, but if you can, it's a very, very powerful thing to be able to do. So let's show you some of those things. If you do host and any web server, let's go to Google. It tells you the IPv4 address and the IPv6 address of the web address or web server you put. Okay. You can also include a DNS server after that. I'll use Google's DNS server, which is 8.8.8.8. That's Google's own DNS servers, which are always fast and always reliable. If you do use a DNS server, it'll give you information about that first before proceeding to enumerate the web address that you're looking at. And it'll pivot from that DNS server, so it's always handy to use. So it'll jump from the DNS server to the web address before it enumerates it. Okay, so it gives you a bit of information about the DNS servers, what port it's using, etc. Then it'll give you the information you were looking for, such as the IP addresses of Google in this instance, IPv4 and IPv6 addresses. Another use of host and tac-t. tac-t is targeted information, or at least that's what I call it, or remember it as. You can use tac-t and MX to look up the MX records of a website. Let's go for Microsoft this time. There you go. It gives you the MX records of Microsoft and all the different hops it does. You can also look at any DNS records and the primary server by simply using host, tact, targeted info and any, and a website such as let's think of another website. Let's go for Bing. Yep. Gives you the primary server. Another use of host, perhaps its most powerful tool or most useful, is TACL for lookup. Any website. Go for Bing again. This will see if you're able to do zone transfers on that site, which, as I said, 95% of the time you won't be able to nowadays. But if you can, it's a very powerful thing to be able to do. As you can see, on Bing, you can't, you're not authorised. Zone transfer failed. On most of the main sites, you definitely won't be able to do zone transfers. But if you can, you've definitely got a good tool to get yourself in there. If you're not sure what zone transfer is, then just look it up on Google. It's very powerful, but not very often you'll be able to successfully use it nowadays. But it's handy to know how to do it, and you should always check any web server you're enumerating to see if you can do a zone transfer. Okay, that's some of the use of host. If you want more information, like any of the commands I've discussed, simply type man and the name to get your manual. We've already mentioned this. And just like more, you can press enter to go down line by line in the manual, space to go down page by page, H for help, which gives you help on the actual shortcut keys within the manual, and Q to quit out of it back to where you were. Okay. Let me clear my screen. Those are some handy network commands you should be aware of. Obviously there are probably more powerful network tools that you can use, especially built into Kali and other Linux distributions, as well as a lot on the actual repos which you can install with aptitude. But these are actual commands built into more or less all of the Linux flavors and distros. So they're handy to know how to do it yourself, what I'm saying, without the need of tools. Okay. Now, if you are interested in doing network pen testing, then if you're interested in looking on the internet, web servers, web addresses, web domains, etc., then curl is definitely something I suggest looking into. The curl command is very powerful for that. If you're looking to work on local networks and any network infrastructure, or work with shells of any type, such as reverse shells or bind shells, then I do suggest looking at Netcat. A very powerful command, both for that and curl. Okay, now I just quickly want to go through some shortcut keys that will make your life easier when working on the terminal. As you've seen, I did a few minutes back, to clear your screen, instead of typing clear, you can actually press Ctrl and L to do exactly the same thing, clears your screen. Okay. As you know, you can press Ctrl and C, which terminates any command that's currently running. And some people think Ctrl and Z does exactly the same thing. Actually it doesn't. Ctrl and Z puts the currently running command into the background. So it looks like it's stopped, but it's actually still running as a process in the background. But it allows you to carry on typing new commands while it's running. Okay, that's Ctrl and Z. Now, if you, let me type some random characters. Or words. If you want to go to the beginning of a line, you can press Ctrl and A. And if you press Ctrl and E, it takes you to the end of a line. Ctrl and A to the beginning, Ctrl and E to the end. Now, also, wherever your cursor position is, if you notice on the A of random at the moment, you can press Ctrl and XX to go to the beginning of a line, and Ctrl XX again to go back to where your cursor was. So that's Ctrl XX. Back and forth, beginning to where your cursor was. Can be useful if you just want to quickly change something near the beginning and then jump back to where you was. Okay. Okay, another useful, sometimes you'll have a command that will carry on running, it won't run quickly, and it'll give out a lot of information on the terminal, a lot of text that will be very verbose. And sometimes you don't want to have all that information on the screen, you just want to stop it or pause it for a while whilst leaving the command running. And to do that you press Ctrl and S. That leaves the command running but stops any text it's outputting. And carry on, to get the text to carry on running again, you press Ctrl and Q. So it's Ctrl and S, stop the text but leave the command running. Then you press Ctrl and Q to make the text start running again. So Ctrl and S, stop the text, Ctrl and Q, make the text start again. I will reiterate that the command will still be running with Ctrl and S and Ctrl and Q. Okay. Now, wherever your cursor is, if you press Alt and B, you'll find it'll go back one word at a time. That Alt and B goes back one word at a time. Alt and F will usually jump forward one word at a time, except for in those situations such as the terminal, unfortunately. If there's a menu that overrides it, which Alt and F opens the file menu, then it'll actually do that instead. But on any other text-based programs within Linux, Alt and F will jump forward one word at a time, as long as there's not a file menu to override it. But Alt and B will jump back one word at a time. Go to the end of the line with Control and E. Okay. Now if you press, let me just go here, Alt and D, it'll delete one word at a time from the current cursor position. Okay, so I'll go back here, it'll delete from the cursor position one word at a time by pressing Alt and D. So delete no, delete yes, delete no, delete yes. That's Alt and D, delete one word at a time from the cursor position. Okay. And if you press Control and W, Control and W, it'll delete, it'll do the opposite to Alt and D. It'll delete every word from the cursor position backwards, every word before the cursor, one word at a time. So it'll delete words one word at a time before the cursor. Okay, so it's basically going the opposite way to Alt and D. That's Control and W. Okay, now let me just put it, yeah, it's already there. If I press Control and K, it deletes every character after the cursor position. Every character after the cursor position, press Control and K, it'll delete it. Okay. And likewise, if you press Control and U, it deletes every character before the current cursor position. Okay, so Control and K deletes every character after, well, from the current cursor position. Control and U deletes every character before the current cursor position. Okay. Now, sometimes you'll be typing and you're typing that fast you get your letters mixed up. For example, so I was typing R, but I actually typed, instead of A-R-E, I typed R-A-E. Instead of deleting letters and rearranging it, you can simply press Control and T, and that'll swap the letters from the current cursor position and the letter before it, it'll swap them around. So Control and T will swap the R and the A around. Yeah. So it's an sorry about that. Yeah, it's a very interesting little shortcut. Okay, just a couple more now that I find very useful. Let me put my cursor back here on the A of random. If you press Alt and U, it makes every character after the current cursor position to the end of the current word capital. So I was on A and it makes all the letters from A which is the current cursor position, to the end of the current word, capital. Likewise, if you press Alt and L, it does the same thing but lowercase. So it makes every character from the current cursor position to the end of the current word lowercase. That's Alt and L. Okay, so Alt and U makes every character from the current cursor position to the end of the current word capital, and Alt and L makes every character from the current cursor position to the end of the current word lowercase. Okay, I actually find them quite handy. And you can also capitalise single letters by pressing Alt and C. So if I was on the E, wherever the cursor is, press Alt and C, it makes it capital. Sometimes it'd be handy if you type to something and you need the first letter to be capital, for instance. Okay. Okay, those are some shortcuts which I personally find handy, and I know you won't remember them all off the top of your head straight away, but they are very useful, and in time, after some use, perhaps if you write them down or something, after a couple of uses of each, they will become second nature, and it does make your working in Terminal or most other Linux programs a lot easier, especially when you're in text editors such as Vim. Okay, thank you. In the next video, I'll actually be covering, I'll be working with some specific pen testing commands for working on remote computers. When you access any remote computer, I'll be covering some quick-fire commands that you should find out handy for enumerating the system of a remote computer, as well as working on your local computer with archives of different types, such as zips, tar files, zip files, gzips, etc. How to extract them, how to make zip files, etc. via the command line. And I will also be going over the permission system, which is something that you should definitely be aware of if you're working in Linux. And that's when you type chmod 755 and a file, for example. I'll be explaining exactly what those numbers mean. It's a very easy thing to learn. Okay, thank you.